Welcome to This Feels Familiar. I'm your host, Minaa B. I'm a therapist, author, and creator of The Siblinghood Theory, and this show explores the themes of belonging, conflict, and the relational patterns shaping your life. Let's dive in. Today's episode is specifically for the person who chronically feels like they are never enough no matter what they do in life. You've accomplished things. You've built a career, maintained relationships, achieved all of the goals that you set out for yourself. People tell you you're good at what you do. They tell you they appreciate you. They tell you they love you. And yet, underneath it all, there's this persistent feeling that says, I'm not enough. No matter what you achieve, it doesn't feel like enough. No matter how much people reassure you, you don't quite believe them. No matter how much you do, you still feel like you're falling short, like you're fundamentally lacking, like there's something wrong with you that you can't quite fix. That never ending feeling that you're not enough, well, I think it's time we explore where it comes from, and more importantly, what you can do to heal it. So today, I'm not going to just be talking to you about how to build more confidence and how to love yourself more. What we're actually going to talk about is emotional neglect, about what happens when you grew up without the consistent love, attention, and validation you needed, and how that absence taught you that you're not enough, and how to finally give yourself the love you were deprived of. So before we move forward, please take a moment to subscribe to the show so that you don't miss an episode. So let's talk about what emotional neglect is and what it taught you, because it's not always obvious. Emotional neglect isn't necessarily dramatic or traumatic in the way we typically think of abuse. It's often subtle. It's what didn't happen more than what did. You weren't consistently seen, your emotions weren't validated, your needs were dismissed or ignored, your accomplishments went unnoticed or minimized, and the care and attention you needed simply wasn't there. And we need to understand that children are meaning-making machines. When love, attention, and validation are inconsistent or absent, children don't think to themselves, oh man, my mom and dad must really be struggling right now. Work must be so hard for them. Man, them getting laid off must really be impacting their mental health. No, children think there must be something wrong with me. I am at fault for this thing. And if there is anyone to blame, it is me. That belief that you're the problem then shapes how you interpret everything. And here's what that can look like. One, love becomes conditional. You learned that love isn't something you just receive by existing. It's something you have to earn. You have to be good enough, achieve enough, perform enough to deserve attention and care. So you started trying. You became the high achiever, the people pleaser, the caretaker, the one who never caused problems. And maybe you thought, if I just do more, if I'm just better, then I'll finally get the love I need. But conditional love never feels secure. Even when you get it, you're always waiting for it to be taken away. The other thing is that your needs became too much. When your emotional needs were dismissed, ignored, or treated as burdensome, you learned that needing things makes you difficult. Wanting attention is selfish. Expressing hurt is dramatic. And asking for care is asking for too much. So you grew up and learned to shrink your needs, to minimize what you want and deserve, to convince yourself that you don't need much, that you should be low maintenance and easy and undemanding. And even now as an adult, asking for what you need feels impossible because deep down, you still believe that needing anything makes you unlovable. And lastly, you became fundamentally lacking. This is the core wound, the belief that there is something fundamentally wrong with you, that you are at your core not enough, not worthy of love, not deserving of care, not valuable just as you are. This belief becomes your operating system. It's not something you consciously think about most of the time. It's just the baseline hum of your existence. I'm not enough. I have to prove I'm enough. But deep down inside, you're thinking, I'll never be enough. And that feeling doesn't go away when you achieve things because achievement can't fix a wound that was never about your competence in the first place. It was about the absence of unconditional love. So, why is this so hard to heal? Here's what makes this wound particularly challenging. You can't think your way out of it. You can logically know that you're competent, valuable, and worthy of love. And you can understand intellectually that emotional neglect wasn't your fault, that the love you needed should have been given freely, that your worth isn't contingent on what you achieve. But knowing that intellectually doesn't change the felt sense of not being enough because this wound lives in your body, not just your mind. It's embedded in your nervous system. It's the way you instinctively brace for rejection, the way you maybe dismiss compliments before they even land, the way your body tenses, maybe if somebody gets a little too close emotionally, the way you expect people to leave once they really see you. These are common examples that can come up when you struggle with this core wound. You can't just decide to believe you're enough. You have to slowly, painstakingly build a new felt sense of worthiness. And that takes time, practice, and a lot of compassion for yourself in the process. And so I'm going to pause here really quickly and say that if this is resonating with you, please take a moment to subscribe to the show and don't forget to leave a review. I also encourage you to share this episode with someone who is also struggling with this wound so that they don't have to manage it alone. Now, I want to take the time to give you some strategies on how to give yourself the love you were deprived of. How do you actually heal this? How do you build a felt sense of worthiness when you've spent a lifetime believing you're not enough? I want you to understand that this is not about fixing yourself because you're not broken. This is about correcting a lie you were taught that you have to earn love, that your needs are too much, that you're fundamentally lacking. The work is replacing that false belief with the truth of your inherent worthiness. And here is how you can do that. First, you need to learn to internalize care when you receive it. When someone compliments you, maybe your first instinct is probably to deflect. Oh, it was nothing. I got lucky. Anyone could have done it. Anyone could have gotten that promotion. When someone shows you care, you might minimize that. They're just being nice. They don't really mean it. They'd do this for anyone. Understand that that is the wound talking. It won't let you take in the care that's being offered because accepting it would contradict the belief that you're not enough. So you need to learn how to practice this. When someone offers you care, love, or validation, I want you to take a moment to pause and notice your instinct to deflect. Then consciously choose to let it in. Say thank you and nothing else. Imagine a world where if somebody said, I really, really think you're great at what you do, and all you said was thank you. Instead of minimizing it or believing that they're lying to you, what would it look like to just say thank you for that? Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for validating that. But simply, thank you. Let the compliment sit. Allow yourself to feel the care being offered, even if it feels uncomfortable, and even if you don't fully believe it yet. You're teaching your nervous system that you are someone worthy of care, and the more you practice letting care in, the more natural it becomes. The second thing you need to do is practice self-compassion, not self-improvement. When you feel like you're not enough, the instinct is to try harder, to fix yourself, to work on your flaws, to become prettier, to be more handsome, to be smarter, to be more this and more that, to become better so you can finally be worthy. That is what you tell yourself. But this reinforces the wound because it says you're right. You're not enough as you are. You need to be different to be loved. Self compassion, however, is different. Self compassion says you're struggling and that's hard, but you're doing your best. You're worthy of kindness right now, not when you're improved, right now. I am good enough right now. So talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a friend who's hurting with the same issue, with gentleness, with understanding, with the recognition that being imperfect and struggling doesn't make you unworthy, it makes you human. This isn't about lowering your standards or giving up on growth. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't conditional on being perfect. You deserve compassion now as you are. We are all trying to be better people. But if we keep moving the goalposts and saying, I will be enough when I get this, or I'll be enough when I have the house, I'll be enough when I have the better job, I'll be enough when XYZ, fill in the blank, whatever it is, you are always going to struggle around your inherent worth because you're basically saying, I can only be worthy when I achieve this. And here's the thing about human beings, we are always moving our goals for happiness. Always. Be honest with yourself and think about all the things that you said you wanted to achieve, how you checked those boxes, and what did you do after you checked all those boxes? You just kept adding more boxes to fill in. So if we keep saying to ourselves, this box has to be checked for me to be lovable, well, we're always going to be searching for that love because there's always going to be a box. So learn to love yourself even in the here and now. And also recognize that when you get what you want and what you want to achieve in life, and when you reach your goals, you were still worthy even when you didn't have those things, because inherently we are worthy beings. The next thing is you have to actively challenge the not enough narrative that you've carried your whole life. Because the I'm not enough belief is so automatic that you probably don't even notice it most of the time, but it shows up consistently. If you achieve something, pay attention to how your brain might say, that's not impressive, that's normal. Anyone could have done this. Really? Does everybody in your circle have some of the things that you have? No, I'm quite sure you worked hard for the things that you have, right? And it may not be impressive to others, but it can be impressive to you because it's what you wanted. And therefore, if you achieve it, why not celebrate that? If someone compliments you, your mind might say they're just being polite. No, they're complimenting you because there's something about you that they admire. So switch the thought. If someone says they love you, you might say to yourself, they don't really know me. If they knew XYZ, they would hate me. What would it look like for you to just let love in and recognize that even when we make mistakes or when we don't have everything put together, we can still be very lovable people. And here's the thing, if you struggle with loving yourself, don't project that on other people. That's a you issue. Other people can love you deeply, but just because you struggle to love yourself does not mean you're not a lovable person. So stop projecting that belief system. I also want you to think about the ways that if you make a mistake, you see yourself as a fundamentally flawed person instead of a person who just simply made a mistake. And you can learn to correct your wrongs. You can learn from that experience and figure out what skills do I need to develop to be a better person or to be better at this particular thing that I am trying to pursue. So start noticing these thoughts, write them down if you have to, and then actively change them. Think to yourself, is this thought true? Is there evidence for this? Would I say this to a friend? What would someone who loves me say about this? You're not trying to force yourself to believe positive affirmations. You're just questioning the automatic negative beliefs. You're creating space for a different narrative. And over time, this weakens the grip of the not enough story. It's no longer the only story running in the background of your life. I also think this is important. A lot of us need to learn how to grieve what we didn't get. Part of healing this wound is grieving. It's grieving the fact that you didn't get the consistent love and validation you needed as a child. It's grieving the fact that you gave your all into a relationship and you didn't get the outcome you desired. It's grieving the fact that you did everything to get the attention of your parents or people in your life and you just never got it. That's a real loss and you need to mourn it. Grieve the parent who didn't see you. Grieve the childhood where you had to earn love instead of just receiving it. Grieve the years you spent believing you weren't enough because of the people in your life who couldn't give you what you deserved to receive. This grief matters. It's not wallowing. It's not being stuck in the past. It's honoring the pain of what you missed so you can move forward without carrying it as tightly as you do now. So let yourself feel sad. Let yourself be angry. Let yourself mourn the version of childhood you deserved but didn't get. That grief is part of the healing. I also want you to learn how to build tolerance for being loved. This might sound strange, but one of the hardest parts of healing the wound around not being enough is learning to tolerate being loved. When someone loves you well, when they're consistent, caring, and don't need you to earn their affection, it can be deeply uncomfortable. It can feel strange. It can feel weird. It doesn't match what you learned. It feels too good to be true. You might even find yourself waiting for the other shoe to drop. You might even sabotage it. You might pick fights. You might pull away. You might test whether they'll leave because rejection feels more familiar than secure love. A lot of people who grew up in emotionally neglectful homes and dysfunctional homes grow up to be adults who sometimes realize they actually don't know what love actually is. They don't know what love feels like. And building tolerance for love means staying present even when it feels uncomfortable. Noticing when you want to run or push someone away. Reminding yourself that secure love is allowed to feel unfamiliar. That doesn't mean it's unsafe. Over time, you're retraining your nervous system to accept that you are someone who can be loved without having to earn it. The next thing that you need to do is recognize what secure love actually feels like. Because if you grew up with emotional neglect and dealt with a lot of dysfunction, you might not have a clear template for what healthy, secure love looks like. This is why cycles of dysfunction persist in so many families, because people are just passing down behaviors that they experienced. They're passing down belief systems that were a part of their family structure. And the reality is, some people were taught being abusive, being mean, being cold, being distant, giving the silent treatment, being dysfunctional, all of these different habits. They were taught that that is what love is. And so for a lot of people who grew up not understanding what secure love looks like, you might mistake intensity for intimacy, or anxiety for passion, or being needed for being loved. And I want you to understand that secure love is steady. It doesn't require you to perform or prove yourself. It definitely doesn't punish you for having needs, and it doesn't withdraw when you're imperfect. Secure love says, I see you and I'm here. Your needs matter. You don't have to earn this. So start paying attention to who offers you this kind of love. It could be a close friend. It may not be a romantic partner yet. And even though you desire for that type of love to come from a romantic partner, don't let the absence of that overshadow the people in your life who are actually giving you the love that you desire. Because it might not be the people you expect. It might be quieter than you think, but it's there. And as you recognize it, you can start building relationships with people who love you in ways that actually heal the wound instead of reinforcing it. The next thing is so important. You have to find joy and build a life you admire and love yourself. Part of giving yourself the love you were deprived of is actively building a life that feels good to you. Not a life that proves you're enough, not a life designed to earn validation from others, but a life that brings you genuine joy. What do you actually enjoy? What makes you feel alive? What would you do even if no one was watching or applauding? It makes me think about how on social media, everybody is comparing their lives to one another, but also seeking a sense of validation. And it's always intriguing to me when I come across certain accounts that are doing things that clearly, accounts from people, I should say, who are doing things that clearly bring them joy that goes against society's perception and standards of joy. So to give you an example of that, I am somebody who really loves to watch HGTV. I really love home decor. And sometimes on social media, I like to watch videos of people improving their homes. And I really like to follow accounts from home improvement platforms. And then once in a while, my algorithm will show me people who live in tiny homes, people who live in a trailer and they decked out their trailer. And I remember seeing a couple who literally turned a school bus into a luxury home. And there were so many people in the comments on this particular video of the people who live in the school bus who was just like, why wouldn't you just buy a house? Like, why would you want to live on a school bus? Why would you invest money into that? The reality is that is what they want for themselves. They're not designing a life based on other people's validation. That couple designed a life based off what brings them genuine joy. They are happy living on their luxury school bus. If you are somebody who desires to live in a 3-story mansion, get that. Go ahead and pursue that. But there are some people who don't want that. There are some people who actually don't want to own a home because they enjoy a nomadic life where they just hop around to different places and they don't mind staying in hostels. They don't mind camping out. They don't mind just having the bare minimum because having a big home just isn't something they aspire for themselves. So the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of us don't realize the reason why we also struggle with being enough is because we're trying to live up to someone else's standards. We're saying to ourselves, being enough means I have to do what's accepted in society. Being enough means if I do buy a house, it has to be the really big house. It can't possibly be the school bus that I turn into a luxury home. It can't be the ranch house. It has to have multiple floors. It can't be just a regular house. It has to have a huge wraparound porch. Why? Is it because it's what you really want? Or is it because people in society will say that's what you should have? That's what you should aspire for. So I really want you to just think about when it comes to cultivating joy, it really has to be authentic joy. It has to be what makes you feel alive. It's not about what other people are saying or thinking or feeling about your life. It's about giving yourself permission to pursue the things that you really love, to prioritize pleasure, rest, creativity, and connection, and to build a life that you admire, not because it's impressive to others, but because it feels fulfilling to you. This is a form of self love. You're telling yourself, I deserve a life that feels good. I don't have to earn joy. I'm allowed to prioritize my own happiness, even if other people will frown upon it. The more you do this, the more your nervous system starts to believe it. The more your nervous system starts to recognize being enough isn't 100% dependent on what people think about me or feel about me. I have to cultivate that internally for myself. The next thing that is very, very important here is to learn to recognize isolated issues versus not enough issues. So, what I mean by that is when you carry the I'm not enough wound, you interpret other people's behavior as evidence of your unworthiness. I've seen this play out time and time again with people. So, for example, if someone doesn't text you back immediately, you start to draw this conclusion they don't care about me because I'm not worth caring about. If somebody criticizes you, you might say, they must see the truth of me. I'm fundamentally flawed, or there must be something wrong with me. Everybody else is always right about me. And then if somebody leaves, if somebody ghosts, if somebody just doesn't stay present in your life, you might say to yourself, oh, this is evidence I'm not enough. What I need you to understand is that other people's behavior isn't about your worth, it's about them, their capacity, their struggles, their choices, their limitations. Here's what you need to practice: stop making assumptions. Learn to distinguish between an isolated issue and a not enough issue. So, for example, this comes up a lot for people I work with in the context of dating. They meet someone who can't commit to them, and their first instinct is to say, I'm not enough for them to commit. If I were better, more attractive, more interesting, they'd want to commit. But what's really happening here? You're dealing with someone who has a commitment issue. That's their limitation. That's their struggle. And it's not something that you can solve by being enough. You can have all the money. You can give them all your time. You can give them the best sex of their life. You can invest. You can do all of these things. And if somebody doesn't want to commit, if somebody has their own internal struggle, no matter what you do, it's not going to feel like it's enough. And that has nothing to do with you. It has a lot to do with them. Again, for example, someone being emotionally unavailable isn't proof you're not lovable. It's proof they're emotionally unavailable. If you see the signs, name the signs for what they are. The signs say, this person is showing me X, which means this is probably the place they're in. Not that I'm problematic, not that I am not enough. It might be that they're just not available to give me the things that I want or to give anyone the things that they want. Someone not choosing you isn't evidence you're not enough. It's evidence the fit wasn't right, or their capacity is limited, or they're just dealing with things that have nothing to do with you. So I really encourage you to challenge this pattern. When someone behaves in a way that triggers the not enough belief, you need to pause and ask yourself this: is this actually about me, or is it about them? Am I dealing with an isolated issue, their commitment problem, their emotional unavailability, their poor communication, or am I making this about my worth? I want you to stop giving other people's limitations and struggles the power to define your worth, because your worth is inherent. It doesn't fluctuate based on whether someone else can meet you where you deserve to be met. So here is the takeaway that I want you to get from this episode. That never-ending feeling that you're not enough, it's not the truth about you. It is the trauma wound. It's what you learned when the love you needed wasn't consistently there. You're not broken, you're not fundamentally flawed, and you don't need to fix yourself to be worthy of love. What you need to do is to correct the lie you were taught, that you have to earn love, that your needs are too much, or that you're inherently lacking. Healing this wound does take time. You can't think your way out of it. You have to slowly build a new felt sense of worthiness through practice, compassion, and actively giving yourself the love you were deprived of. Learn to internalize care when it's offered. Practice self-compassion instead of self-improvement. Challenge the not enough narrative and grieve what you didn't get. Most importantly, you need to learn how to build tolerance for being loved and to recognize what secure love feels like. Take the time to find joy and build a life you actually love. And stop letting other people's behavior confirm the belief that you're not enough. Learn to recognize when something is about you and when it's simply about other people. So if this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to rate and subscribe to the show. Your ratings will help me grow, and I truly, truly appreciate, especially if you're listening on Spotify, I appreciate when you leave a comment. I read every single one of them. I also encourage you to subscribe to my newsletter, All the Hard Things on Substack, if you want to continue learning from me. A newsletter goes out every Thursday, and you can keep learning from me as well by grabbing a copy of my book, Owning Our Struggles. Remember this: that feeling that you're not enough isn't the truth. It's a wound from emotional neglect. You don't need to fix yourself to be worthy. You need to give yourself the love you were deprived of, because you are enough and you're allowed to finally believe it. Until next time.